I'm not good at following directions, so okay. You don't understand. It's not my strong point. All right, so I'm Barbara Horne. I'm from Trenton. Grew up on West Hanover Street, right across from the State Building, right across from the museum, not far from the old barracks. These days, I work as a business strategy consultant. So I go into different businesses. I consult them on how to improve their processes, how to manage projects, and I also do some training for them. So I grew up on West Hanover Street, and there was always a debate as to whether I was North Trenton or West Trenton, and to this day I'm not really sure. So kind of across from Edison State College, some people told me it was North Trenton, some people told me it was West Trenton. I usually identified with West Trenton because that's where my friends were. When I was growing up, I lived right in front of the basketball courts. So it was fun because I could go out in summer, I could play basketball, I could learn to shoot. Once in a while, some friends would come by. We could just shoot, we could practice. And eventually they built a swing set out there. So for us little kids, we could get on the swing, and then we had some monkey bars to play with. It was interesting because my dad, he would always make sure the area was clean. Like, the city didn't clean it. My father would get out there with his broom and clean it so that me and my friends could play. Because what would happen is a lot of the older guys would come and they would play basketball and they would drink and they would throw bottles or whatever. But he would always come out there, clean it, so we would have a place to play the next day. Growing up in Trenton, the best part was actually my family and friends. Like, you have your neighborhood and you have your friends, and you go in, you hang out with your friends, you play with them, and that's what you do. Like, my friends were around the corner on Wilkinson Place. So there was West Hanover, the basketball court, Wilkinson Place. So, you would come outside and there was somebody to play with. And you would play tag, double dutch, which I wasn't very good at. And again, basketball, or just hang out and run around, do your whole go up and down the street to the corner store 3 times a day and get your ices and your popsicles and stuff like that. So, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad growing up. I was a child of the 80s, teenager of the 90s, and for the most part, I had fun. I had friends, and, you had your moments here and there. You had your inner city life. You saw your drug deals and things like that. But we were able to play. We were able to sit on the stoop at night, laugh, enjoy life. When I was in Trenton, and my father, he used to drive by St. Mary's Cathedral, and I was a little kid. We moved around there when I was about 5, so they had to figure out where to send me to school. He wanted me to go to parochial school because he never had the opportunity to go to school, period. He's an entrepreneur and owned a trucking company and a gas station and real estate, but didn't have an opportunity for education because he came from the South. So he used to drive by St. Mary's, and he would see all the girls in their uniforms, and he said they were so well behaved, so that's where he wanted me to go. So I went to St. Mary's Cathedral, and I went there K through 8th, and I did really well. And I was offered a scholarship, partial scholarship to Stewart Country Day School, thanks to Stewart and a program called The Better Chance. So with Stewart, it was just a huge change because I went from going up the street from my house to school to having to wake up and get on a bus at like 6:02 in the morning on what we call the Trenton bus, which we shared with another school, and then go to what I guess equated about 20, 30, 40 minutes into the woods of Princeton to go to Stewart Country Day and Princeton Day. But the education was good. Stewart is an all-women's school, and they focused on the math and science and getting us out. Culturally, it was hard. I mean, I was lucky. I had 2 other friends that came from my grammar school that were there, and so that was good, and I made some other friends along the way, and like I said, the education was excellent. I learned a lot, but we were, just a minority. We were a true minority in terms of being the black people there, so that was always a struggle, just trying to figure out where you fit and where you belong, and filtering out things that you just weren't used to, and also the way they looked at Trenton. From Princeton, they looked down on us. Trenton was Trenton to them, and to us it was home. So, me being me and being outspoken, there were times that, I would have to let them know that Trenton, that's so dangerous to you, this bad place, and this is a dump. I go back there every day. When I get on the bus, that's where I go. So after Stewart, initially I think I wanted to be a research scientist, and I took AP classes and things like that, and I did explore it a little bit. I got into an advanced placement early acceptance program at Carnegie Mellon that I went to the summer of my junior year, thanks to Stewart Country Day. And I didn't go early. I came back to school, finished my senior year, and actually decided to go to Rutgers. And I was so happy to go to Rutgers because coming from Stewart, my graduating class was 30-something people, and Rutgers was huge. Rutgers had all this community, had a lot of different people, African Americans, Indians, Latinos. I just had a little bit of everybody and all these activities. So I was happy to go there. I was happy to be a number. Rutgers was difficult because of the administration. You had to be very independent. You had to be very vigilant. You had to be very on top of everything because they had what we call the RU screw. Meaning they will screw up your tuition, they will screw up your financial aid. I was offered financial aid I wasn't even supposed to have. I was told I could get into programs I wasn't able to get in. So that was a struggle. And I actually left Rutgers and didn't come back till years later. And I started out with a degree, pursuing a degree in biochemistry, and didn't really come back till years later to go into labor studies, which I love. And in the meantime, I entered the work world. It was the .com era, so I was able to move my career along, work as a training instructor, which is something that I still do to this day. I was able to learn a lot. I was able to go out as a consultant. There was plenty of jobs. People looked less at skin color and more at ability because there was just so many jobs and they needed people. So I was able to build an independent consulting career through that by just going and changing from one job to the other and taking opportunity because opportunity was there. So it was interesting because one day when I was on Rutgers campus, I saw a flyer. And to this day, nobody can tell me who ever posted this flyer, but it was for an instructor position. Now, it was funny because when I was at Rutgers, I had joined a women's organization and I was president of it for a while. And we never had a PR committee, so I used to spend all my time in the computer labs learning how to use all these software applications. And initially, I was terrible at it. And there were all these engineers in there. They used to laugh at me. They used to help me out. They were nice guys, but they used to laugh at me. There's Barb is like the morning sun and the evening sun because every time we come here, we see her here working on these applications. But due to that, I gathered software skills. So I see this flyer for this instructing position, and I call, and the lady was desperate, so she brought me in and she interviewed me. And when you interview an instructor, what you do is you do a regular interview, you sit down, talk to them, but you also give them a platform interview where you have them stand in front of a group of people and instruct on a specific topic. So I did both, and like I said, she was desperate. I think the job market was in our favor, so she hired me, and that was my first real job with the salary and health insurance and all that other stuff. So I was teaching people who had been out of the workforce the skills they needed in terms of things like Microsoft Office, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Access, etc., how to get back into the workforce. So that was what I was doing. And it was very interesting because you had a population of people who were struggling because they were out of the workforce and they were stressed out. And some of them were out because they had emotional challenges or psychological challenges and things like that. And then you had me, a 20, 21-year-old teaching these people. So it was interesting because, they started to realize that I was a lot younger than them at some point. So, sometimes we had to establish our boundaries. They were like, well, how old are you and what do you know? And I said, well, this is what I know and I'm willing to teach it. And if you're willing to learn it, we can make something happen here. If you're not, then you're not. But I got a job. So, and you're trying to get a job. So if you're willing to put in the effort, I'm willing to put in the effort. And that's how I established myself, and it went well. And I got a little promotion, and I moved into marketing training for the same company. And I did that for a while. It was interesting because the company was owned by Nigerians, young Nigerian people, and the staff was all young. It was African American and Nigerian. So it was fun because you were dealing with a lot of your peers, and there were parties and things like that. People worked, but they also partied, which was nice. It was great conversation. But their company had a lot of challenges. And so when I saw an opportunity to go into the workforce as a consultant, I took it. I basically said, okay, well, this has provided me with some springboards. I was able to get a little promotion. So, a friend of mine who was working as a consultant said, you could do this, the same thing that you're doing, but you can do it for maybe 3 or 4 different clients, and then they'll subcontract you to their clients. So again, at the time, job market is good. So I went out on my own, and she'd given me a number of contacts, sent resumes, I interviewed, people hired me, and I started going from company to company doing training, and word of mouth got around. So if you are in any way good at that job, then somebody else hires you. So I would work on a number of different projects. I traveled across the United States. I worked at a ton of different companies, everything from the federal government to the school system to unions to Wall Street. And what I would do at that time is go in there for maybe 1 or 2 days and teach a training class, usually something software related. That went on for a few years, and it paid my bills and then some, and I was able to do well with it. Again, also I went into different colleges. I was at NJIT for a while, and I taught their web classes, and eventually the market began to go down. We had 9/11, and it was, I was fortunate because I had contacts, and as people laid off a lot of their full-time workers, they still had work. So those people contracted me. So I still ended up doing what I was doing for quite a while, but I was making less money because there was just less clients, less work. But I was still happily employed, and I kind of rode out that recession. After that, I spent a few years, just kind of fell into an opportunity on Wall Street at Goldman. That was really good because I was able to learn a lot. I mean, there's so much to just learn about finance, stock market, and everything Wall Street. And if you're going to learn it from anybody, they're the best people to learn it from. So I was there. I was doing project management training at that time. I was doing some of their proprietary software training, doing some consulting, sharing with other people some methods for training. And I did that from 04 to 08. And it was great. And as then the market began to fall again, but I was fortunate because that contract ended, and someone who I worked with brought me on to another financial company, and I worked on the strategy team where they were building a project management office. So that was great, and I was responsible for overseeing the training for that project. So that one was fabulous, and it lasted for a while, and the market continued to slip. And then I did a complete change, feeling burned out from training, from finance, from consulting, from traveling, and decided to open a cafe based on seeing a note on Facebook where Roland, who owns a lot of land, as we know, a property in Trenton, was renting out a space and also wanting to move into a cash business, as what I was doing was the service side before. So from there, we ended up opening the cafe in Trenton, and I took a long 1 year or so break from consulting and ran that. And that came with a lot of fun and a lot of challenges. And when that was done, I went back into consulting and fell into some interesting projects with process improvement, and hung out in Boston with the Harvard people and the Smithsonian people. And from there, I've been hanging out, or rather working, with the government on some of their projects in terms of project management, again, process improvement, and making training for certain military institutions. So that's where I'm at right now.